was the Lycan, dropping on February 18th from Comixology and Renegade Entertainment. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. Joining me to talk all things the Lycan is the creator of the Lycan, and he's also the editor, co-writer, based on his story, along with a wonderful team, the amazing, the legendary Thomas Jane. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Excellent. I like, you've got the cover up behind you there, and I was just looking at it going, hey, it's a pretty good cover.
Yeah. A damn good cover. And shout out to Tim Bradstreet, who is one of my favorite artists. He did a lot of work on The Punisher, which you are known a lot for as well. So it's awesome to kind of see, hey,
that's right.
Tim Bradstreet working with Thomas Jane on the
Lycan. That's the connection. You bet.
I love it. So the Lycan, I know you've been trying to get this off the ground for a little bit, but now it's here, arriving on February 18th, a monthly drop on Comixology. It's about 6 issues. Yep. Where did this story come from you?
David James Kelly is a terrific screenwriter. We were working on another project over 10 years ago. And David, we had a good time together. So he said, hey, I got this other thing I've been batting around. It's a really neat story. And it was inspired by Brotherhood of the Wolf. The thing about Brotherhood of the Wolf, it's a great film. But it didn't have any werewolves in it. So that kind of was upsetting. So we thought, let's do something similar in that. We love that time. We love those people. So let's do a European werewolf movie. And this time, let's put the werewolves in it. So that's what we did. I got lucky with Mike Carey. He just so happened to be in between gigs, and he never does adaptations. But he was, for whatever reason, he loved the story. Mike loved the story, and we happened to catch him at the right time. So we have the best, one of the greats writing the thing for us, and he did a fantastic job. And so my job was then to find the right artist to make it all come together. And I have high standards when it comes to art, so it took me a while. But with Comixology, I had a great partner, and they allowed me the space and the freedom to take the time to do the job, because I say, as I say all the time, once it's done, and then it sits on somebody's shelf. This will be a graphic novel. It'll go to print. We'll do 3 double issues, and then that book is going to be done. And hopefully it'll end up in some collectors' collections, and so making sure that it's a book that I'm going to be proud of at the end of the day was my number one priority.
Well, I definitely could say, speaking for myself, I had the pleasure of reading the first issue, Tom, right. And it's amazing. Again, brilliant Bradstreet cover. Again, shout out to Mike Carey. We're actually, my team is going to be speaking with Mike. Right. In a couple of days, so we'll have that interview on the channel with Mike. But I think Diego Yapur.
Yeah.
Where did you find him?
I found him in heavy metal.
Amazing. Heavy metal. I love heavy metal.
Yeah. I mean, that's, what you got to do. You just start digging through go to the comic shops and start flipping through books, and for me, you got to stay away from Marvel and DC, because those guys are almost always going to be under contract.
Exactly.
And you have to find an artist that's young enough that they're still kind of breaking in, so they haven't gotten that Marvel or DC contract, but they're talented enough to get it. And so digging through books like heavy metal is going to be your best bet, because you want somebody with the experience and the talent, and that's how we found Diego.
Definitely, what a find, because his talent is well represented in this, and I love the detail throughout this. And I guess you called up Tim, you're like, hey, Tim Bradstreet, Mr. Bradstreet, you remember me? You did my Punisher comics. What was like that chiming him and his interest and availability? Because again, does work for all the studios, but
Timmy's a busy man. He is a unique talent, and thank God, the demand for a Bradstreet cover has never let up. But I've been pals with Tim ever since we got together for a photo shoot. Marvel was going to do the adaptation, and they wanted a Bradstreet cover for the film. So we met at this little studio. I think it may have even been in San Diego. That's where Tim used to live. And it may have been during a Comic-Con, which is probably why I was down there. And we had this amazing photo shoot, and we started this conversation that's still going on today. Sometimes you meet those guys and you hit it off in a particular way about a particular sort of subject, and then that conversation never really ends. So that's my relationship with Bradstreet. He's a legend. He's a legend, man. And I love these guys. I love comic book artists. I have a genuine respect and love for what they do. I think a lot of them have started working on their pad. They've gone digital, but some of them, not a lot of them, some of them are still putting pen to paper, but that's getting harder and harder to find. But the technology is now so good that there's almost no difference in terms of final product, right? Liam Sharp did a cover for us, so I'm excited for everybody to see that too.
Shout out to Liam Sharp. I'm a big fan of his. You love ultra detailed artists like I do, which I think is amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Well, bring it to life, and by the way, I'm also a huge fan of Kirby.
Oh yeah.
Ditko, right? So but yeah, my heart leans toward the Al Williamsons, and the Wally Wood, and people who just can bring it to life in a way that makes me feel like that's a real world, that you can pop into in your mind for a little bit.
I love that. And I love that you're in comic books. I have to tell you, Thomas. I started in comics, then got into film. I tried to break into Marvel when I was in high school back in 1996. Then started doing acting and do a little bit of both. And I now still do a little bit of both. Were you always into, because, a lot of us know you as an actor. You have your own company. Shout out to Renegade Entertainment. Everybody go check out Tropo from the brilliant Thomas Jane and his
It's on Amazon. It was in the top 10 for weeks when season 2 came out last summer. Which was a big surprise because it's a little, basically it's like an indie detective thing that we shot in Australia. But we had Candace Fox, who is a fantastic novelist. So we were adapting a series of books called Crimson Lake.
Yeah.
And very proud of it. I directed a couple of episodes in season 2. I'm very proud of those.
I spoke with Candace, I believe, and I also spoke with, I think it was Nicole Shamoon, the lead.
Yeah, Nicole's fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, we got lucky and found this super fantastic co-lead. So that's been fun.
Yeah. So Renegade Entertainment, you're doing this, and then I think you mentioned earlier you're editing something else. Were you always into comics, and is this also, let me bring it back. What I have found, I'm a comics guy, then I got into film, but I've dived back into comics because I think we both know as actors, as filmmakers, it's very hard to get the budget to sell these producers, the money bags people on your project. So if you can give it to them and say a comic, another way for them to visualize it, see it, it helps. And as we've all seen, there's a lot of things that are being taken from comics, independence, and then now being brought to the screen.
Oh yeah, no, so that's been around for a while. Sorry,
is that possibly also kind of a plan maybe with Lycan? Because I would love to see Lycan as a big budget feature. Is that kind of like on your wavelength as well with some comic
this one projects? I never do a book in as a sales tool, and that was really popular about 10 years ago. Like everybody had a comic book and they'd print off a few hundred copies, and some of them were really good, and they'd end up as movies, but that was their intent. you know? So that
Yeah.
became a sort of business for a while where you could crank out it independently all these different, basically people were adapting their screenplays
Yeah.
to turn it into a book. But I don't do that. I have too much respect and love for the graphic novel and the comic book on its own. And a story should live in the medium that best represents that story. Uh, in this case, the Lycan would happen to be a great film, and that happens. But we conceived it,
Without the intention. So
as a
I
book.
think the thing is not the intention. If it happens later on, cool, but that isn't the intention, which I think is I love that point.
Yeah, it has to live on its own. And,
Yeah.
movies are expensive, right? So sometimes you have a story and you're like, you know what? I just want to create this. So doing a book is appropriate. It makes sense, But I think that where you have to ask, where is this story going to have its best life? Is it going to be as a mini series? Is it going to be as a series? Is it going to be a film? Is it going to be a book? And so the Lycan was its best life is as a 6-issue miniseries right now. And if somebody wanted to turn it into a movie, I think that would be fantastic.
I'd love to see it, but it is amazing so far, and I've enjoyed this first issue. I can't wait to dive into the next 5. If we
Mm-hmm.
can go back to the Lycan and touch upon what you love about the Lycan, so you kind of came up with this concept with your co-writer David
David
Kelly.
James Kelly.
David James Kelly. You work with Mike Carey, and this brilliant Brazilian artist that you got from heavy metal. Can you tell me, this first issue, what the fans can expect? This shipwrecked band of hunters. They meet some nuns. They meet the Spanish, group there.
Yeah.
What are there particular characters that you really enjoyed seeing brought to life through Carrie and yourself, and just everything with what we're going to see in the Lycan?
Well, I think what turned me on was this collision of 3 worlds. You've got the redcoats who are in the middle of a war, and those uniforms are just so cool. But they're they represent the rigidity of government and those rules, and the military, right? So that's a whole universe in itself, and some people are attracted to that, and so they become, soldiers, or maybe they'll want to hit the ocean and become an admiral. But there's a regimented sort of quality, and then the opposite of that is the man who is his own man, who does work that he's really good at, but he doesn't have a boss, and that's the hunters. This band of hunters, and we kind of conceive them as the Dirty Dozen, but with in Africa hunting big game and capturing them and killing them and bringing them back to the UK to sell to rich people to have on the grounds of their castle. This was a thing. It was a status, if you could have a tiger running around in your royal garden. And those were the guys that did that, but they're essentially free. Nobody tells them what to do, and they're highly skilled. And of course, they'll die for each other. And then you have the nuns, right? So during the war, the redcoats have taken over this fort that was occupied by a group of nuns. And so they're obviously pissed off that they've got a bunch of redcoats living in their home, basically. But they have to deal with it because the village is having a wolf problem. People are getting, mauled left and right. And our hunters get shipwrecked on this island where all this is going down, And so the redcoats make a deal. They're like, we have the manpower and the materials to fix your boat, if you take care of this wolf problem for us. So that's our story in a nutshell.
And that's just issue one,
just
y'all. I
love it.
cannot wait to kind of see where it's going to go. And I kind of have not, as creatives, you're like, oh, I think I would go this way with it or that way with it. I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out. But so amazing to look at. Again, thank you, Thomas, for this. I can't wait to dig into the next 5 issues.
Great, man. That's great.
To close this out, if you don't mind, if you can, I've been kind of werewolf heavy, which is weird with the Lycan just dropping now. I think we're all in like werewolf mood.
Wait, what?
I'm in like a werewolf vibe right now.
All right.
And I'm curious.
I thought you were going to say there's other werewolf projects out there right now.
Well, we on cinema, we don't have werewolf comic books right now, so I'm excited for the Lycan. I'm like in a werewolf vibe.
Okay, good. Yeah, so, right on.
Because of like and it was Wolfman. Universal dropped a new Wolfman film.
So did you see it?
I did, and I actually enjoyed it. It was an interesting new take on the Wolfman franchise.
Lee Wannell is just fantastic. It's Lee Wannell, right?
Yes.
He's just terrific. The Invisible Man, that's a great movie.
Exactly.
That movie was tight. I loved that. And I love what he's doing. He's putting a new twist on the old Universal monsters. So
you got to see Wolfman.
More power to him. So I'll check it out.
So basically because of that, we were putting together a list of our favorite werewolf films on screen. And now I think we got to do a werewolf in comic book form now that we have the Lycan. So I'm just curious, what are your top 3 werewolves in cinema or in media that you can throw at us real quick?
Jesus. Well, I've got a list because everybody's got to say the same things. I mean, the werewolf genre is really fun, but it's kind of sparse in terms of real classics,
and real good ones. I found
making a really good werewolf movie for some reason just hasn't quite worked out for Hollywood. But there's a few, and those are the ones that everybody's going to list. American Werewolf in London is fantastic. Again, I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah.
Terrific. I mean, geez, I wish that darn movie had some wolves in it. Let's see. Dog Soldiers is a pretty darn good film. So I actually rewatched that not too long ago, and I was like, gosh, for a movie that came out in like 2002, this is nicely put together.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. My personal favorite, The Howling. Because I was, 13 years old and saw that in the movie theater, and that transformation, nobody had seen anything like that, which was absolutely brilliant. And the movie's cool, so I really like that. If you want to step outside the werewolf genre, there's a great movie called The Grey, which is more about wolves.
Okay.
But that's a really
Liam Neeson.
Yeah, Liam Neeson. Yeah.
That was a great film. Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, it's really great. But if you use your imagination and you just think instead of the wolves, they were werewolves, you'd have a great movie, werewolf movie. Let's see. The Company of the Wolf, Company of Wolves is a movie from 1984. Good. It's sort of the Little Red Riding Hood idea.
Okay.
But interesting, worth checking out. Let's see. The Wolfman from 2010. I love the way it looked, but I was just not a fan. I don't think a lot of people really.
I don't remember liking when we were doing our werewolf films, recap, like I said, because it's now kind of like back in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I appreciated it more. I didn't back then, but I appreciated the rewatch.
Yeah.
Teen Wolf was good seeing again, revisiting Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf, right.
Michael J. Fox,
So there's lesser werewolf movies that might be interesting for people to check out. There's one called Wolf Cop from 2014.
I remember that.
I mean, the title kind of says it all.
Yeah. Awesome.
There's also a one from 2013 called Where, WER.
Okay.
So, you just go in blind if anybody's going to check this out and lower your expectations. It's just an interesting take, at least for the first half.
Amazing.
Yeah. And there's another one called Werewolf Within.
Okay.
2013, 14 had a little werewolf spate right there. There's one called Late Phases from 2014.
Okay.
Interesting to check out.
Um,
Yeah, and then I've got written down here, which I have not seen, the Wolf of Snow Hollow, which came out in 2020.
okay.
And then there's a Norwegian werewolf movie called Viking Wolf. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. It's a Norwegian movie. Apparently it kind of falls apart, but apparently it's worth checking out if you're into that kind of thing.
Well, we are over here at the NRW, sir. So definitely thank you for those recommendations, those calls. Yeah, because we've been that's just been like in the zeitgeist now, and like we're all about werewolf films and good ones because you know what? We really, like you said, there's some give you some of the werewolf, some don't give you a lot of practical effects. I love the practical effects.
Yeah.
Thriller.
Yeah. That's a problem, with werewolf to do that digitally. And I understand now it's just we're in a new game. So maybe that's changed. But the digital werewolf transformation just doesn't cut it. You gotta go practical.
Seeing the original Thriller, the behind the scenes making of Thriller, Michael Jackson, where he becomes a werewolf,
that was
one
great.
of the things that made me become a filmmaker.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see that. That was mind blowing when that came out.
Yeah.
And MTV was like the biggest thing in the world. It was always on. If you went over to somebody's house, there was always MTV playing in the background. And then when that dropped, I mean, it's one of those memories where I still remember like laying on the living room floor and watching that as a kid. That was a knockout.
Exactly. Definitely. And why I'm here and why I'm talking to you, Thomas Jane, thank you so much, sir. It is an honor and pleasure to speak with you. Congratulations on the Lycan. I cannot wait to read the next 5 issues, but I know everybody hasn't even read issue 1 yet. So everybody, Comixology, Renegade Entertainment, issue 1 drops on February 18th. New issues monthly consecutively from them. I know Thomas is going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. I think you have like a poster that you're going to have a special at some panel I think you guys are doing there.
We did it last year. We had a great panel and we gave away a lot of posters, we gave away the Bradstreet poster. And then if you flip it around, we have one by Sean O'Connor. So I never do this, but I was like, I got to take one of these home. So those might be floating around. This year, I'm sure we'll be there to do something, so hopefully I'll see some people down there.
Some more amazing projects on the way as they come out. Thomas, I'd love to chat with you again to
anytime
hype it up and talk about it. I'm such a fan of yours, and
Thanks,
such
buddy.
an honor and a pleasure to speak with you about the Lycan. Everybody, Thomas Jane, I'm Kuya P. The Lycan, again, February 18th on Comixology from Renegade Entertainment. Go check it out. It's so good. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you, sir. Let me hit... Hit record. We're rocking. I think I got a trailer from you guys. Wasn't there a trailer that you guys put out for this as well?
Geez, that would be Comixology if they did a trailer. That would be cool.
Yeah, they did. Okay, so that'll be my lead-in. We're gonna come off of the trailer. I'm gonna introduce myself, introduce you, and we'll get right into the conversation, sir.
Right on.
All right, let's rock and roll. Here we go. In a 1, 2, 3.
Pleasure chatting with you. Love to all my nerds who rule the world.
Yeah. Nerds rule the world.
Yes, we do.
Thanks. Nerds rule the world. Thank you.
I love the nerds ruling the world, so more power to you.
Patrick, what up, man? And yes, they do. Nerds rule the world, kid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Awesome. Kuya P, nerds rule the world. Hello.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Oh,
Nerds rule the world.
I got.
It's in the title of your show, like Nerds Rule the World. Like, I want more black weirdos on screen, and I don't feel like we ever get to see that very much.
Thank you so much. Nerds do rule the world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nerds rule.
Love it.
It's your boy Kuya P, nerds rule the world. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
Do. They rule the world, all right.
Yes. Take care, Tony. Thank you, guys.